Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Music Theory with Miss Cassidy. Today we are going to do a double lesson because this is information that most of you should already know, but this is a good review for all of us, and we're going to talk about some techniques that we should be practicing every day, but maybe aren't. So make sure you're paying attention. Okay, so today we're going to talk about note values and how to correctly draw different sorts of notes on the staff. And we're also going to talk about measure lines and double bar lines. So just making sure that we are using good notation handwriting to get all that stuff correct. And we're also going to talk about how note durations relate to each other for different types of notes and different note values. So let's first talk about types of notes in simple meter. So we're talking about simple meter here, not compound meter for those of us that are used to doing things with Taki does and 6/8 or 9/8 or 12/8. We're talking mostly just about simple meter today. So that's 4/4, 2/4, 3/4 meters that we usually do a lot of takadimi in. So our usual note types that we're using all the time are quarter notes, half notes, and whole notes, all right? Now, we use these all the time. We talk about them in class a lot, but just a couple things. A whole note is drawn with an open oval. We want to make sure that when we draw that on a staff, we are taking up an entire space or the equivalent of that when it's on a line. So if I were going to draw a whole note on our F space, the oval would take up just exactly the space in that space. It goes all the way to the top and all the way to the bottom. Now, obviously, it's hard to be exactly accurate, but that's about what you're going for. Same thing, you want it to be about the same, or that's a bad one, but if you want it to be about the same size when it's on a line, so it's taking up half of the space between the C space and the A space right there. Okay, so a couple things about our quarter notes. We have different parts of the note. We've got the note head, or the filled-in space from the quarter note, and the stem, which is the little tail, right? For a half note, notice that it's an open head with a tail. When you draw those on the staff, you have to make decisions about if the stem is going to go up or if the stem is going to go down, and there's rules for this. So the stem goes down when the note, let's talk about this first. The stem goes up when the note is anywhere below the third line. Anywhere below the third line. So in our treble clef, that would be the B line, right? The middle line. So let's just draw a couple of these. Here's our quarter notes that are going to have stems up, right? And E right there. For that third line, you can choose. It can either go up or it can go down. And you kind of make that decision based on what other notes you're drawing in that line. If you're writing notes that are mostly, lower on the bottom half of the staff, you're probably going to make the stem go up. If you're going to be working with notes that are higher, you're probably going to have your stem go down. So the stems that go down, extend our staff, well, that's messy, sorry guys, are going to be the ones that are B or above. So for example, let's start with B, down for C, down for D, down for E, and down for F. So that's what I have to say about that. So that's how you're going to know whether or not the stem goes up or down. One thing that you're going to have to do for today's assignment is fill in the blanks with the correct number of types of notes that equal another type of note. So for example, the example that they give for exercise 1 is there's a blank, and then it has a quarter note, and then an equal sign, and then a whole note. What it's asking you is how many of these equal one of these. So we know that a whole note is equal to 4 quarter notes in simple time. So we would write a 4 here. We would write a 4. So 4 quarter notes equal 1 whole note. Let's do one more of those together just so that you know exactly what's happening. The B, so exercise 1B, it has a blank, and then it has a quarter note, and then an equal sign, and then it has a half note, all right? So we know that 2 quarter notes equals 1 half note. There's 2 beats in a half note. Quarter note equals 1 beat, so we would put the number 2 here. And if you have any confusion about how to do that, make sure you reach out to me so that I can help you. On the next half of your lesson, so today's lesson is 2 pages, so make sure you look at both of them. You have to talk about bar lines. Now, a bar line is the line in music that delineates where a measure begins or ends. So for example, actually, let me draw a whole new staff because this has just gotten too messy. Sorry, guys. Let me draw another messy staff really quick. So remember, our staff has 5 lines. 3, 4, 5. So we've got our clef at the beginning. We're in 4/4. Now, if I have 4 quarter notes here. We know that in 4/4, there's 4 quarter notes in a measure, so this would be the end of the measure. The bar line goes all the way through all of them. Notice that it starts directly at the top and ends directly at the bottom. It doesn't go any further than that, all right? That's our bar line for a single staff. If you are going to have something that's on a grand staff, so remember the grand staff combines the treble staff and the bass staff, look like this. 5. If you've got a bass staff and a treble clef, there's some parts that we need to make this work, especially with our bar line. So we would have this little swoopy bracket thing at the beginning, and then your bar line is going to go all the way through, from the top to the bottom. It does not, see, I just had to fix it because I did it wrong. It does not extend above this top line. It does not extend below this line, but notice it goes through the whole thing, and that just helps your eye keep track of like, okay, I'm on a grand staff right now. This bar line is for this entire measure for both staffs. One more thing you need to know for today. At the end of a song, the very last measure in any song that you're going to get, you have to use a double bar. Now, just like our normal bar line on our grand staff, the double bar also will go through both staffs. And it just looks like this. So let's pretend that this right here is the last measure of this song. We've got 2 whole notes, right? That's going to be, that takes up the whole measure. And we want to tell the reader, the music reader, this is the end of the song. What we would do is a double bar. So it's got a single one and then another one. The second one is going to be a little bit thicker. So I'm going to color that in just a little bit. And that's what it'll look like, all right? Double bar. That's what it's called, a double bar. For today's exercises, for your second page, like I said, this assignment is 2 pages. You're going to have to divide a staff into 4 measures with a double bar at the end. That's pretty easy. And then you'll have to do one with a treble clef and with a bass clef, writing in a whole notes for every measure so that it'll be filled in correctly. And then you have to draw a grand staff. And then write in 4 measures with a double bar at the end, and then write in 2 half notes in each measure. And it doesn't matter what line you put any of these on. Just put half notes in the measures. It doesn't matter what note it's on. If you want to get really fancy, you could write me something in C major if you're really interested in composition, but you definitely don't have to. Just write any notes for that example. This was a little confusing today. This is sort of a big topic, so if you are having any problems, make sure you're reaching out to me. Send me a Canvas message, send me an email, shoot me a text, and I will help you. Just let me know. Okay, I'll talk to you guys all tomorrow. Bye-bye.